You know how pathetic that sounded. Good morning, Richland 44. Thank you. I want to go ahead and begin. We have everybody out here. Pretty important day today. Pretty important weekend. See, 15 years ago, on September 11th, something tragic happened to our nation. 2 planes flew into the World Trade Center towers. 1 plane flew into the Pentagon, and 1 plane crashed into a field in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. All planes were hijacked by members of Al-Qaeda with the goal of killing many Americans and threatening our way of life. In all, the attacks killed 2,996 people and injured over 6,000 more. On September 14th, 1814, a young lawyer from Georgetown, Virginia, was held captive on a British ship in the waters off Baltimore, Maryland. During the night, British forces bombarded Fort McHenry as that lawyer, Francis Scott Key, looked on from the ship helplessly. In the morning, he was struck with awe and wonder as he noticed that our flag was still there. Shortly thereafter, he penned the poem Defense of Fort McHenry, which later was added to music and became known as our Star-Spangled Banner, or the national anthem. What do these 2 events have in common? Well, they're both direct and inherent examples of what is known as the American resolve. Enemies come in many shapes and sizes, whether it's war, terrorism, racism, discrimination, poverty, or even tyranny. When the enemy has knocked on our door, we've overcome and defeated it, sometimes stamping it out of existence. Why? Because that's what Americans do. We always have, we always do, and we always will stand for something. If you came here today hoping to mourn, I have to be up front with you. You came to the wrong place, because today we're going to celebrate. We're celebrating our still young U.S. military in the Battle of Fort McHenry during the War of 1812. These brave men laid down their lives to defend the very beginning of the nation that we call America. Their struggles to uphold the values and ideas which drove a British colony to shake the yoke of foreign rule inspired Francis Scott Key to write an epic poem which to this day still brings tears to the eyes of millions of Americans every time they hear it. And we're celebrating those who lost their lives during the attack that occurred on 9/11. The memory of those individuals is forever memorialized in our minds, especially whenever we see the pictures, view the video, or hear the sounds of that fateful day. In our hearts, we may feel sorrow, anger, and hatred, but in our actions, we show courage, strength, unity, and resolve. That event united our country like none other in current times. It's my only wish that we would be required to constantly reflect on that day, to remind ourselves how we came together as a nation, border to border. There was no skin color, gender or orientation issues, or politics standing in our way. We were brothers and sisters with the common cause of standing behind our values and freedoms and fighting for the American way of life. We're celebrating the men and women of the police department and fire department who keep us safe from harm in our communities, on our streets, and in our homes. It's my absolute opinion that these warriors do not get near the recognition that they deserve. They patrol our streets with the knowledge that it may be their last day on earth. They selflessly place their lives on the line every day to keep us safe from harm and ask for nothing in return. They rush into burning buildings, to put out fires and rescue those inside, knowing that in any given moment, their own life may end in that process. And why did they do this? Well, the reason is something greater than you and I put together. It's because they're unselfish heroes. It's because they're Americans. We're celebrating the men in uniform who serve in our military, my brothers and sisters in arms. Their sacrifices are unparalleled to each other, to any other. They wake up every morning, strap boots on their feet, and march to their destiny. They may be here at home or some far-off land. They leave their families behind for days, months, or even years at a time to defend our freedom and our way of life. They are most often not welcome when they travel abroad, and these men and women never know if they'll ever return alive. And many don't. However, they do know that not returning home alive is always a distinct possibility. Yet they drive on with a smile and an emphatic hooah. Why? Because they're Americans. We're also celebrating us, members of the community, parents, students, school staff. We come together under the flag for a purpose. It's to remember a tragedy and to celebrate a triumph. You see school staff around here with shirts on that say, "I am Richland" on the front and "Carnivore" on the back. That's because we are part of the backbone of what America is. Never give up, never lose faith, always strive for excellence. Oh, and the carnivore part is, there's anybody that gets in our way, well, we eat them alive. Now, as we conclude today, I ask that you always remember 9/11. Remember it solemnly for those who lost their lives that day. Celebrate it for the resolve that it created in our country to stand together and fight a common enemy who threatens our way of life. Remember the Battle of Fort McHenry that raged on throughout the night, and when hope was almost lost, a small group of former colonists overcame an enemy larger, stronger, and better equipped. It was a triumph that inspired a young lawyer to pen a poem that became a declaration of our love for this nation. And lastly, when you feel as if you no longer matter in the greater scheme of things, when you feel that the world is a stranglehold on us and hope is passing away, when you believe that the very fabric of our existence, our values, our freedoms, our character is being ripped to shreds, lean on the flag. Find comfort in all that it stands for. American resolve. And also, remember, and don't ever forget, we are Richland, and we are America. Thank you. It's time to turn it over to Mr. Emil and our high school. Thank you all for coming and joining us today. Thank you, parents.